Hey everybody, welcome to Everybody Can Have One More Cat with Stephen Meserve, because no one will ever notice. Hey everybody, welcome back to Everybody Can Have One More Cat. This is episode 4, and we are talking all about the cat world, the cat fancy as we call it, and I am joined by my special guests and friends all the way from Bogota, Colombia, Dora Castillo, all the way from Perth, Australia, Pamela Lanigan, and then all the way from Tokyo, Japan, Kazumi Frost. So this is a really big global group of us, which is really exciting. I guess I'm representing USA and United Kingdom at this point. So as you guys know, we formed Loving Cats Worldwide. Dora is involved with Loving Cats Worldwide in South America, Kazumi in Japan, and Pamela, is hanging out with us and going to talk about the traditional associations. So if you guys, just for you guys that are listening, for most of you only understand Loving Cats Worldwide or LCWW, but there are a lot of cat organizations that exist in the world. We are just the new kid on the block, and fortunately or unfortunately for us, we're kind of the industry disruptor at this point. The cat fancy has existed for 150 years in the United Kingdom. And seems like some of the people have been around that long. Just kidding. But we just want to talk about the different dynamics and how things are going. We are all about the cats. We are all about visibility. We are all about invigorating a whole new generation of people. Historically speaking, in the United Kingdom, United States, Australia, South Africa, I guess, it's a much older demographic of people. In South America and Asia, you are seeing a younger demographic of people starting, which is really good. But in the I guess the English speaking part of the world, it's really gotten quite on the older side. So we have been doing everything we can. So welcome you guys, and let's just have a quick little chat. Let's start with you, Pamela, in Australia. Why don't you give us the dynamic there, and how the associations all work together, and what impact LCWW is having, because we are coming with 6 shows in less than, and all of us are going to be there, right? Because you'll be Dora, because in Pamela you'll be there as well, I suppose, right?
It'd be awesome.
So, yeah.
Yeah, Australia's really interesting, and I've been to different. It's one of the things that I do with one of my friends. We go traveling around the world to go to different cat shows and see different, ways of people doing things. But Australia is very unique because it's isolated from the rest of the world. It's so far away, and our cat fancy has kind of been the same it's always been. It is, the shows we go to are the same shows that we were going to 10 years ago. It's rinse and repeat. And it also is a bit unique in that it's sort of like there's 2 big bodies and another national body, and then everything is split down and split and split and split. And sometimes you have associations that don't have very many members, but are still, associations that are deciding things about stuff that we're doing in the cat fancy in Australia. So it's a really fractured kind of cat fancy, and a very this is the way we do it because we've always done it kind of cat fancy.
Yeah, so tell me about, hi Martin, tell me about so people that are listening, generally people that are listening, other than the people that are listening because they want to see what we're doing, as usual. Tell me how the shows in Australia differ from our listeners, what they're used to. Obviously Loving Cats Worldwide shows are based around the cats first and foremost, and then giving education, entertainment, and engagement is what we pride ourselves on. How does it work in Australia, and what's the what would they expect to go to a traditional show there?
It's very much it's very much we came from a place of closed shows. We haven't had closed shows for a long time, but if you could imagine, it'd be like well, I'm going to show my cat this weekend, so I take it to the hall, I hand it over, and then I leave and come back later and see if my cat's won.
So
Which
it's
is
kind of the
like,
same as, is that the same, is it the same similar format to the governing council
yeah,
in the
yeah,
United
yeah. So
Kingdom?
that's where it came from, and then suddenly we had like, instead of just having white curtains, we were allowed to have coloured curtains, and that was like, oh my god, that's so exciting. And then, but it hasn't really changed much since then. We recently we have, like, stewards handle the cats, the judges handle the cats. No one's allowed to know who is there and all that kind of thing. But it really isn't sustainable because we don't have enough stewards and we don't have enough people that can help at shows to do things anymore. And the association with Now, we said when we set up, well, we're going to have what we call owner handling, which is something that you did you kind of have that anyway. And when we've gone to 5 shows and that, they have owner handling in terms of the exhibitor brings the cat to the judge. And that was like groundbreaking here because the judge seeing the owner with the cat is just not done here. It's really interesting, and people get very much caught up in that. And we have cases where I've judged at shows where every cat has its own teaser and you're supposed to use its own teaser, but there's rules about what the teaser can be like, and that it can't be, different things to identify the cat from its toy. Everybody's so worried about the judge being biased that they've kind of forgotten, it just doesn't.
We run into this all the time. When in the United Kingdom, it's even, as it's more strict
Yeah.
than that. Everything, like you literally come in, you put your cat in a cage, everything is white litter box, white bowl, white bed, the whole 9 yards, white curtains, and you leave and you come back. Everything's judged in private. It's why the Cat Fancy hasn't I have the most respect of any organization in the world for the governing council. Like, I think it's one of the most well respected. It's the original. It's the OG cat association in the world. So I get this, and it has its place. But in order to grow and sustain, it's not sustainable because there's not any engagement. People, they want to see the cats, right? But this is the age-old thing with the judges. It's like I don't care as a judge whose cat is what. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I could care less. I judge the cats. Do you know what I mean? Like, and for it's almost kind of offensive if you think about it. It's offensive to my integrity to be micromanaged that way. You know what I mean? That I have to make sure that I have blinders on, or I can't be looking to see who's putting the cat in the ring, or even more ridiculous, like, I know that cat because the owner has that teaser. Like, this is just silly, and I think in animal associations globally, they do this. Cat associations globally. But think about dog shows. The dog shows, like, they can see the handler. You know what I mean? They see who's handling the dog. Yeah. So this kind of, and everybody knows we've done away with cages as well, and we are now moved to owner handler. Kazumi, it worked pretty well in from what you understood, right? You're muted in case you want to speak, but it works pretty well. And, like, did you even really have time to look at, like, who the person was? Do you know what I mean?
I was just looking at the cat.
Yeah.
And I really did enjoy, because they are so relaxed, because their owner is so close to them, and they brought owner brought that in my hand, so they're really trusted and easy to handle. I had no problem with those cats.
Plus you didn't have to handle like a 25-pound Maine Coon, you know what I mean? Like, out of the cage, like, and put it onto the table. It really made it people lost their minds when they were like, oh my gosh, they're doing it with cages. Like, you're doing, but it visually looks way better, right? And, like, literally, I don't care. We literally don't care. This is all the associations in the world are taking note of what we're doing. That's obvious. But, like, everybody needs to change with the times. It's just not there anymore. The way that we have been, the judges in general can't know whose cat is what. It's just absolutely ludicrous. So to Dora,
you have shows like the Fife World Show, we've been to shows there where they've had thousands of cats. They've had 2,000 cats, 1,000 cats. They've had a room full of people, and the exhibitors all bring their cats up to the judge. And no one's head explodes, and no one accuses anybody of anything, because that's the way they've always done it. So just because you do something one way doesn't mean that there's not an alternative that can work. Yeah.
So in Colombia, Dora, as it's a newer cat fancy, right? You don't really have these older established, GCCF or anything like that. But what came first in Colombia? Like, what association was there first? Really?
Really, in Colombia, the first one was FIF.
Was FIF, yeah. So and still is there?
Yeah. Is there, but no make a show, unfortunately, because I say people, if you have a lot of association in your country, it's nice because you can go and show your cats in different association with different mind, with different standard, why not? And you can compare, and you are maybe a breeder with more knowledge that if you don't have only one. So this was the first one. So then inside FIF, one person be alone, and in this way Tika come and came, and before LCWW, Tika was the only association that did shows.
Mm-hmm. So it was just those. So for the listeners and you guys that are watching, like, in the world there are many cat associations, right? We have, in the United States, the Cat Fanciers Association is one of the most established, most well-respected organizations in the world. Been around for 100+ years. You have the International Cat Association, which we will call TICA, which they call TICA, T-I-C-A, which is started in the late 1970s, early 1980s. You have in Australia a whole bunch, ACF, CCC of A.
Down from that, there's at least, I think, 17 different. There's
a ton of different.
Small population. It's great.
A ton of different organizations there. You have in South Africa, the South African Cat Club, I think, is what that is. In another global association is called World Cat Federation, WCF. And then of course you have Feline International Federal. I'm sorry, whoever's listening from FIF, whatever the E is. But FIF, which is another heavily European and actually heavily Western European association. In Portugal, it's FIF territory. Spain is FIF territory. There's a lot of loyalty to FIF here, which is great. You know what I mean? All these associations, we all celebrate the cats. Some are more established than others. We run into major problems. I don't say major problems, because we're not recognized as a cat association, which is absolutely ludicrous if you think about it. There's no association that mandates, it's basically, I say this all the time. It's like you open a restaurant and you serve food and you serve drinks, and you open that restaurant next to another restaurant that's very well established, right? And then the well-established restaurant tells all of their people that that's not a real restaurant. So we are a real association. We are a real organization. We have cats. We have titles. We have shows. We have registrations. We have judges. And we are the new kid on the block, absolutely. But who's to say that a new cat organization can't pop up? Like, it's like there's like this weird like mafia mentality. If WCF started in the 80s, Tika started in the late 70s, if they started in the day of social media, you know what I mean? They would have been hit with everything that we're getting hit with. You know, no organization, cat organization has launched. I mean, maybe in Australia, ANCATS in the last 20 years, but ANCATS in Australia was up against some of the same stuff that we are dealing with. They're not a real association. We're not going to accept their pedigrees. What's really funny to me is that, you know, I was an Albury judge with Tika. I was Tika's Judge of the Year. I was on the board of directors for 3 terms, representing 2 different regions. So I start my own association, not my own, we start a new association, and all of a sudden my credentials are not valid when I was trained by Tika, the whole thing is just crazy. And, you know, it stems a lot to that we are doing something very different and we're disrupting an old, antiquated industry, I guess. You know, go for it, Dora.
when people ask me about the work at Congress, I always say the work at Congress no is an international world association that represent all association in the world, like OIT or another that is more than the country. Do you understand me? So I say only represent 4 in the first time and now 9, because in your example about the restaurant is like we talk with my restaurant in the street, in the corner, or in this block, and I say no permit that other restaurant come. Yeah, only this and no more. But is only talking for association now 9, but not represent.
Yeah, exactly. So there's to put this back into perspective. There's an organization called the WCC, which is the World Cat Congress. So this was formed, I think, was formed with good intentions, and that's fair. But, you know, there are, in addition to these bigger organizations, the TICAs, the CFAs, the WCF, the GCCF, South Africa, Australia, you know, not all organizations belong to the World Cat Congress, okay? Mm-hmm. So, you know, and to be eligible to belong to the World Cat Congress, you have to have been a registry for 10 years. So even if we wanted to, as LCW, apply to be part of the World Cat Congress, we can't. We can't until 10 years. But there is nothing, it's to be fair, the World Cat Congress isn't doing a whole lot of anything, and I don't really care if I say that out loud. They're doing nothing to protect the breeders, to protect the breeds. You know, it's basically just an organization that all the big boys are part of, and they use it to squeeze out all the little boys. You know, and there are independent associations in Europe that are not affiliated with anyone, independent associations in Japan, independent associations in Australia that are not associated with the World Cat Congress. But then, like these little associations in Germany, let's say, like when you put a pedigree in, like the bigger organizations will accept the pedigree from this little teeny organization in Germany, even though they're not members of the World Cat Congress. But then when we want our pedigrees to be accepted by these organizations, they won't do it because they say we're not members of the World Cat Congress. Like, this is just the tip of the iceberg of how ludicrous the cat fancy is. Like, it literally is, like, there is no rhyme or reason for anything that's done. Also, they like to say that our pedigrees and our titles are worthless. And they, like, if you're a Supreme Grand Champion or Ultimate Grand Champion in Loving Cats Worldwide, that's only valid in Loving Cats Worldwide. That's true, because if you're a grand champion in CFA, that grand champion title doesn't transfer to TICA. The TICA title doesn't transfer to the governing council. The only part of the world that the titles transfer, from what I understand, is Australia, which makes perfect sense. But like, is all this kind of stuff that they use against us. We're not members of the World Cat Congress. We haven't been around a long time. But we have, Dora was a Tika judge. You know, most of our judges, come from heavy backgrounds. Stephen Savant, Marilyn Gregg were founding members of Tika. A lot of our judges are from other older established associations. Anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. But the point is it's absolutely crazy for you guys that are outsiders and not in the cat world that are listening to this. It's mental. You know what I mean? Like it's literally mental. We take a hit because we are not a non-profit. We are a for-profit company, But it's always been so crazy that you can't be perceived to be making any money off of the... What are you supposed to do? Take a loss every single time you put on a show? Like, it's really kind of crazy. And Tika didn't start out as a nonprofit. They transferred into nonprofit status as they continued. Dora operates in the Loving Cats charters in Hatari-kun. You guys are not a nonprofit, right? You are for profit, no? Yeah, Kazumi as well.
We have the example right here in Australia.
So in the United, that's the translation. Like the companies can be set up in two ways: a charity or not a charity. Hatari operates not as a charity, right? You operate as a business, Loving Cats LCWW Japan operates as a business, not as a charity. That doesn't mean that we won't transfer into charity or that we don't donate or that we don't help. Us being a nonprofit, not a nonprofit or not a charity has always been a bone of contention with people. And it's like what we are doing on just from our visibility, on how much people are watching what we're doing is benefiting the rescues, is benefiting the breeds. You know what I mean? There's a lot of stuff that's really kind of twisted, and we're going to make this a series, and we're going to come back and talk about really crazy stuff that goes on a daily basis. Everyone Can Have One More Cat with Stephen Meserve is brought to you by Roz, a family brand with a big heart. Roz is a pet nutrition brand that understands the importance of helping the furry friends we all consider family. Not only are they committed to providing pets with natural food options that are high meat and minimally processed, but they are also dedicated to giving back to those in need. By donating 100% of their profit through the Roz Fund, they've contributed over $3.7 million to pet-specific causes and those living with disabilities across the United States. Cooked in small batches, without the use of rendered meals, Roz Recipes ensures high-quality protein and nutrition in every bite. To shop their line of nutritionally complete offerings for cats and dogs, or find an authorized local retail partner near you, visit roznaturalpetfood.com. That's Roz, R-A-W-Z. But so how does it work in Australia, Pamela? If you are running, are all the shows set up as...
Well, it's interesting that you brought up about the World Cat Congress and about setting up an association as a not-for-profit or a for-profit, because we have, you've already mentioned ANCATS. We have ANCATS here in Australia, which is an association that covers the whole country, and they've been around for the 20 years that I've been in the cat fancy. There was some blow up at the beginning. There was some drama. They left
very similar from what Bambi and I had talked.
20 years later, I've, through my association, proposed that we recognise them in full at least once, and it's been rejected. It's been rejected.
And you're from the CCC of A, right?
Yeah. It's been rejected again recently, I think. But what is interesting, and this is where it really starts to annoy me, is that we have this thing where along the way they've gone, well, we're not recognising their judges, we're not recognising them, we don't like them, but we're going to recognise their pedigrees because some of our breeders want to use their cats. you know, and then suddenly it's like, oh, well, we're going to recognize this and we'll recognize that, but they're just cherry picking the bits that they want. And I think that's very unfair to the people that are there. After 20 years, you know, they're there, they exist, they've been, you know, if that cat is good enough for me to use for breeding, why can't I go to one of their shows and use one of their challenges for one of my titles? You know, it's weird. And then they'll say things like, well, we don't like their judges because they haven't been trained properly, or they haven't been this and they haven't been that. And then my answer to that is some of them were trained by you. And also, if you don't like a judge, you don't invite them to judge at your shows.
Exactly. I mean, when I was judging in Australia last year for the associations there, I was literally just I wasn't, my points didn't count. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I was more of a fun.
They wouldn't recognize.
But never mind, I'm super well established, have been trained by Tika, Tika has the best training program in the world, just genetic based. We learn a lot, Dora, eh? And like, it's the best in the world, in my opinion, you know? So, but again, my credentials were not valid because I wasn't there. But yet, independent judges, you know, can come in and judge for these clubs, right? Like, if you're not affiliated with an association and you're what's called an independent cat judge, they'll take them to judge there. But I wasn't allowed to. You know?
Yeah, and there's even the weirdest thing now is that there's motions being proposed and passed to say specifically you cannot judge for LCWW, you cannot judge for this, you cannot.
Like, I love being named, right?
And it's like, I don't know.
We're in a rule.
Yeah, it's like we're going to circle the wagons in case you're going to steal people away from us. You're going to steal our people and steal our members, and when you behave like that, all you do is push people over to the other side. You know, that ANCATS has got members because people have been frustrated with things in it, and it's gone the other way as well. People jump ship because they're not happy. If everybody just recognized everybody, it would just be a little bit easier, I think.
Yeah, I think I want to talk about Japan in a minute because Japan's got their own drama, but the issue with us is that we are this new shiny toy, right? Like, it's like this very big shiny plaything that's like come into the circuit, yeah? And people are like, can you believe what they're doing? And it's exploitive, and you know what? Like, and then when people that are like, okay, well, we're gonna try it, you know what I mean? In Toronto this last weekend, or 2 weeks ago, last weekend, yeah, we had a lot of people from, there's another organization in Canada called the Canadian Cat Association, CCA, which I don't even think is a member of the World Cat Congress, to be honest. And
they can
not
judge
that
in
it matters.
Australia.
I don't believe they are. And yet their pedigrees are accepted by everybody, right? But you know, there were some people that came over from the Canadian Cat Association and they were told not to come, you know, that this is a crazy association. Stephen is nuts. You know what I mean? He's not a nice person. Like really, really vicious kind of things. And if anybody that knows me, like, you know that I'm like this in general. Like, I just trying to do what's right. And they loved it. They loved it. You know what I mean? They absolutely, it was busy. You know what I mean? And, you know, and they love the fact that we just celebrate the cats. Like, where else can you go and have your cats gushed over like we do? You know what I mean? Like, we spend a lot of time with these cats, you know? So it's just getting, and the same will happen in Australia. 6 shows coming in May and June, you know, that are run by Oz Feline Fair. You know, we are coming as guests. We'll all be there as well. But, you know, I think you're going to get people that'll dip their toe in, you know what I mean? And they'll come and they'll check it out either as a visitor or as an exhibitor, hopefully, and they'll be like, well, this is really kind of fresh and fun and nice and not political and really kind of stripped everything back. So let's talk about Japan for a minute. So I'll help Kazumi start this one. So Kazumi's kind of new in the cat world on the grand scheme of us, I suppose, but she's gone into it full throttle. In Japan, the cat world has existed in Japan for a very, very long time. You know, Tika's been there since its inception, and then late in the early 80s. CFA's been there for quite a long time, and then they have independent associations in Japan as well. Japan has one-day shows only. It's kind of culturally a one-day show thing, kind of like the governing council does in the UK. They have one-day shows. From what I learned from Kazumi is because hotels generally don't take cats in Tokyo, so that's part of the reason. But they also, and this blows my mind about Tokyo. Like, I've judged in Tokyo, I've been there before, and even before Loving Cats Worldwide, and like, this is the craziest cat culture city in the world, right? Tokyo. Like, it's full of cat lovers. Every single show in Tokyo has no visitors. Like, none. And it's not their intention. They never tried. They don't care to. They like their cats. They like their rosettes. They like to judge in private, and they like to go home. So Kazumi is the Loving Cats Worldwide Japan, let's say, associate who's bringing the shows there. So let's talk about this, Kazumi, and a little bit of stuff that you've had to deal with since you started on the circuit there.
Okay, we've got so many people belongs to Tika and CFA, and they are the big two associations here. And the way they run is very traditional, and it's all closed and very competitive. So it's really already got the form. You already been here, Pamela, so you know what CFA show was.
No public.
No public, no opening, nothing, but so strict. Everything has to be this way. But since we started LCWW, we are following 3 E's, right? So education, entertainment, and engagement. Those 3 are very important to us. And also rescues are very new to us too. And it's so difficult for them to go through this understanding of what the rescue is, you know? The rescue is the cat that needs to rescue, not the cat in the, like a forest or anything like that. No, it's a rescue is the cat that needs to be rescued, and now we've got the household pet section that they can do rescue. And what I really thought nice about this LCWW is this association is truly looking at the rescue cat. And the first show that I went to in the States was like a rescue was adopted. Dallas. Rescue was adopted on the table, show table, and then like judges were crying, and then this is a really old, like veteran judge, 40 years of experience.
Was that
and
Patty?
That's
Patty Andrews.
That's Marilyn Gregg.
Oh, Marilyn, yeah.
Gregg, put the kitten on the table, saying, "This is for adoption, and is anyone wants to have this cat?" And the boy put hand up, "Mummy, can I have that one? I want that one." And like in front of us, this cat was adopted. That was at the show. And I was like thinking, this LCWW is truly for the cats. Yeah. I really want to take this to Japan, where, rescue is a business in Japan, Pet shops is business in Japan, but can we put
the first show? Just to interrupt you for 1 second. The first show that I did of yours, right? Did I come twice? Twice. The first time. Twice, yeah. The first time I was there, I was blown. I mean, so Loving Cats Worldwide, right? We are all about all the cats. All cats are awesome, whether you're pedigree or not. Like, that's kind of our ethos, and we celebrate the red tabby or orange Moggy cat just as much as we celebrate a solid white Persian or a Maine Coon, right? There's a balance, And I'm hoping that this translates to other associations, but we have rescues. We've adopted 3,000 rescues or facilitated adoptions since we started in all of these associations. So it's kind of the core of what we do. It's all cats are awesome, right? But your first go there, you had a massive massive amount of rescue cats there, and I had never seen that before in Japan, and that's something that is really, really new, and they've never done, you know. And I mean, and that was that. Remember that was that whole line of cats. Remember when they yelled at me for touching the cage? I was like, it's just me,
Yes.
sorry. But yeah, that was really, really cool. You know what I mean? To see for the very first time, and even for us in Toronto last week, you know, granted there were some absentees, but we had like no rescue household pet in the class, the first Toronto class, and then we had 15 entered the next time. You know what I mean? So, go ahead, Kazumi. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So I was like, this is very new, and engagement is very important for people to come over to the show, but it's a constant battle with the old ideas and traditional ideas. Kazumi, this is not the way you do it. Kazumi, stop doing this. No, we need cages. No, we have to have ribbons. We have to have this. Oh, it's just constant. Can we make it simple? Can we make it for cats? You know, that sort of difficulty that I encounter.
Yeah, but it's the whole thing of like, it's always been done like this. You know, when we first started as a group, I mean, when we transitioned from rosettes to certificates, you know, and some I think, Dora, you still do rosettes, right?
Yes.
It just depends on the club, but you have the option to do a certificate if you.
Now we do certificates. We don't do rosette because
Right.
normally people put the rosette in a cage, in a box, and sometimes put on the wall. But
For how long? You know what I mean? How long is it gonna stay there?
And
It's the same thing. I thought everyone's heads was gonna. We did this back in the very beginning, and I thought people's heads were gonna pop off their shoulders, like literally. Like they were like, "Can you believe there's no rosettes?" I'm like, do you know what I mean? Like you can keep it in a book, you can frame it, like you can, like, you know what I mean? Like it's so much. We designed LCWW for everybody, and we made it very easy for a club to have a show and less expensive, because that's what the thing is like everybody was like, but people don't like change. And when you're dealing with a generation, you're luckier, Dora, because you know, you have a new generation. You have the generation that we want in UK, United States, Australia, South Africa, and Japan. You know, but in Colombia in general, not to get overly historical, but your parents' generations had very different struggles. Do you know what I mean? Like during the 70s and 80s, there wasn't a whole lot of cat shows going on in Colombia. Do you know what I mean? So things have changed. Do you know what I mean? It's the same in China. China is a whole new generation of younger people because their parents had way different struggles. You know what I mean? In Philippines the same, and like, but it's just these older established. When you are trying to change a system, my gosh, you would think like that we were like the Antichrist. You know what I mean? Like, can you believe that they are doing it this way? You know, it's just because it's always been, and I know in order to do what we do in this new world and try to, I always say everything's gonna pass, right? Time heals everything, you know, and eventually things will change, but you have to have, you have to have a really thick skin, you know what I mean, to do what we do, because it's constant. You know, we're all up to our eyeballs now, right? In the cat world, right? We are like completely as absorbed as you can be. But I still have friends outside the cat fancy, right? And I tell these stories and they just sit there and they're just like, is this real life? Like, who does that?
Who does that?
You know, we have, as everybody knows, Loving Cats has been under fire because of financials and things like this and all blah, blah, blah. Everybody knows that we have cash flow issues, but when you grow as fast as you grow, you're gonna have cash flow issues, right? But it's so funny, back to the restaurant thing, you know, if you have a restaurant and you love a chef and you love to go eat there, right? right? And you love that person and you love their food and the atmosphere. And then you find out that the chef and the company, you know, maybe is having some cash flow issues because they grew too fast. What do? Do you like wage war on the restaurant, getting them to close down? Like, this is just absolutely absurd of what this world. We love the cats. There's no denying that. You know what I mean? But the people, I mean, there are some that are really difficult to handle, you know?
Their hobby is not the cats. Their hobby is not the cats. In 20 years of exhibiting, and I have come across people, there's amazing people in the cat fancy, and I don't want anyone to be scared away from our hobby.
No, not at all. That's not the point of this, you know? I want people to join us.
Yeah. But there are people that it is clear that their hobby is not going to cat shows and not winning ribbons. Their hobby is just, you know, causing drama. And a lot of the time, these people, they don't have a lot of other stuff going on, so their sense of self-worth comes from cat shows or maybe comes from their cat.
There's nothing else in their life.
Yeah, when you only feel good because your cat is winning at a show, and then your cat's not winning at a show, you know, that's when, and it's just, there's a lot of jealousy and infighting and all that kind of stuff. And if you can steer away from it, it takes, when you're new to the cat fancy, it's really scary, and you do tend to take it all on board. And I've seen people, you know, really, really upset by this, and then there comes a point where you just say, I don't give a shit anymore, and it's cats. I have other stuff to deal with, you know, and I think that's when you sort of learn to tune it out. But some of the stuff that, you know, some of the stuff we've seen in the last, you know, month or two, who says that about another person in any way, shape or form?
In any other world other than here, you know. Dr. LC strives to put heart, soul, and science into all their products, with a variety of premium cat litters and protein-packed foods that address the health and behavioral needs of cats in every stage of life. Dr. LC's is dedicated to solving the complex needs of pet owners with veterinarian formulated solutions. The brand always puts the cat's well-being first, with a singular goal of enhancing the lives of cats and their parents. So my journey with the cat world started very young. You know, I started at 18 in the 90s, and, you know, and I did my thing, and I bred some cats, and I stopped, you know. I stopped because I became an adult, and I had to get a job, and I have to, you know, and I have to grow up, you know. And I'm glad I did, because I got a lot of experience, and I got an understanding of the real world, and I mean, I couldn't have sustained this. But when I came back to the cat fancy, I moved to the UK, and I came back in London, and I got back involved. I started a club. I was a charter club in Tika called London Cats. You know, Loving Cats used to be called London Cats. And this was the first time I was like in the cat world during the age of social media. Like, social media had been around, but I wasn't in the cat world then. And I said to myself, my God, like, the social media will be the death of the cat fancy. Will be the death. These people that are there, the keyboard warriors of whatever generation, they have no filter, they have no recourse, they have no, there's nothing that can come out of their mouth, and they don't care, and they just say it. And I was like, this is absolutely crazy. It was such a toxic, crazy environment, and it still is. It still is a very toxic environment. So when we started Loving Cats Worldwide, I vowed to get rid of all that toxicity, you know, and create this environment where we're celebrating the cats, celebrating each other, celebrating the wins. In every Best in Show and any other association, no one sticks around. Australia, they were packed up, and like everything was gone, you know, by Best in Show. And our Best in Show in Toronto, Kazumi, we had 200, 300 people there, you know, all celebrating the wins. And we built that culture, right? Like that culture of like, of like that people really love it and celebrate it. And I vowed I would not let this toxic mess infiltrate Love and Cats worldwide. And it has to an extent, but we've cut it. You know, we've done our absolute best to control the narrative. And people say, oh, you know, he's deleting posts or he's doing this or they're doing, yeah, I am. Because you know what? You don't have any business talking about other people or crap or anything like this. We will control it because we're never going to attract a new generation of younger people if you have all this cranky people there that are all so hyper overly critical. So we will control the narrative to cut it out, you know, and that's just the way it goes, you know. And if you go to a show, you know, Pamela, you kind of taste of it, but you will see that the energy is different, you know.
It's like the comparison of the show in Tasmania versus some of the other show that I went to, and the difference in mood. I mean, a Tasmania show was done very much, the team tried to research and do it the way that you might do it, and it came across really positive.
Yeah, they did a fantastic job.
Yeah, and then the other one, it was just like, it was good, but it wasn't the same. And I know some of the other
Perth did a good job too.
Perth was okay, yeah.
Perth did a good job.
Yeah.
Perth did a good job. And Cats, I mean, I love Bambi. I love the organization. I love all the people at And Cats. You know, they didn't use me to the best of their advantage, unfortunately. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I think
in my opinion.
that Tasmania did. And Tasmania
Absolutely. And Tasmania had a great gate.
Crammed full of people. And I've had, since that time, so many people say to me, especially about the Australian tour, you know, and because we were involved, we met you in Tasmania and everything, you know, this is not going to work. How are they going to pay for everything? It's not, they can't afford to pay. And I keep saying, you don't understand. It's all flipped. The show is not paid for by the exhibitors' entry fees, because it can't be, because that means you have to charge people too much money to put their cats in. So everything is paid for by the people coming in, the public. And when Tasmania did that, they paid for their whole show because they had this massive gate, you know, people coming in because of the way they promoted it, the way they did it. It didn't matter about the entry fees because they weren't needing them to cover the costs. And so it's just completely different here, because here in Australia, it's like, well, we have to have 80 cats, or we can't afford to hire the hall, because everything comes out of that bucket. And it means that it's just, the shows are just
kind of still works that way in Colombia and in Japan at the moment. Do you know what I mean? Like, I mean, in Bogota,
in Japan,
I mean,
that'll change as soon as you have.
Yeah, I mean, in Japan it should change. Bogota is just, I mean, an entry for a visitor. I mean, I think the biggest pet expo in Bogota charges the equivalent of $5. No, maybe.
Yeah, it's so cheap. Yeah, it's cheap.
So it's really inexpensive. So like, to get away with charging it, so it's different. They have to make money. You have to make money on sponsorships and things like this, and so it's a little bit of a different in South America. But Tokyo, like, really should be coming around. You know what I mean? If we just make a massive effort there.
As soon as people know, they're going to come, because if people come to places like in Australia, we're not a cat-loving country; it's a dog country. Australia doesn't like cats. We have feral cat problems. The feral cat
situation
there. So cats have got a very bad rep here. If you have a country like Japan where everybody loves them and you've got a massive population, I just think that as soon as people know it's there, they're going to want to come. You're going to have to fight them off because there's too many.
But again, it's a very fighting every day for people who's actually doing the show committee, that, oh no, you should be doing that free. I say, no, we can't do that on free, because who's going to fund the show halls and stuff like that? So the culture of everything's free in Cat Fancy has to go. We have to put the show that it's actually worth paying, and put the cats together, which is worth seeing, and also like rescues and adoption, stuff like that. So people pay money to come over to see what we are doing. We're doing the show, not just cat show. You know what I mean? We're doing the show.
They'll love it, and then they'll go home and they'll be happy. They've had a great day, and it's about giving value to the exhibitors, giving value to the public coming in, and having fun doing it.
Yeah.
I see the same when I got to the UK. I always came from, I did my shows in the Boston area, and we always worked really hard to get it. Even in the 90s, 90s and early 2000s, we always had decent gates. I worked my butt off. That was before social media, right? So when I came to the UK, it was heavy Tika territory. I came back to Tika there, and they were having their little shows in the leisure centers. They did the 6 judges and the whole thing, the Tika format, but never any gate. Or if they had a gate, they were charging one pound, And I would say, God, this is crazy to me. Like, we're in why is there no people here? And they're just like, we've tried, no one's ever done anything. And I'm like, but you can't tell me people are not interested. Yeah, and it's because of the culture. Like Japan was that way in the United Kingdom. They were just they're used to judging in private. So these people that came from GCCF that started the Tika clubs are used to just judging in private. You know what I mean? So they never made any effort until I got there. When I got there, I remember I charged £7 for my show, and literally people lost, the cat exhibitors and the other clubs were like, this is crazy, what, how is he £7? Now we're charging 40, you know what I mean? So it's they couldn't believe it. And then the Tika, the regional director at the time when I was there, put restrictions on how many shows you could have and how many it was just madness, you know what I mean? And now, you know what I mean, because of all the hard work that I did and we did at London Cats, everybody's reaping the benefit of it there, everybody's getting more gate, everybody's making an effort, everybody's doing, but they don't want to pat me on the back or pat us on the back and say, that's because he did it like that, but we did, you know what I mean? And doesn't matter what we do, everybody knows we are on the right path, this is the right path forward, it is the right, celebrate the cats, celebrate the rescues, engage the public, and get more sponsorship. Sponsorships always go to dogs, The cat fancy has ruined sponsorships, with the pet industry because the people didn't follow through with the sponsorship. So we're always working an uphill battle. Oh, we've done cat shows before. Can't do cat shows anymore. Everything goes to dogs. Everybody watches what LCWW is doing, right? And they don't want to admit it's good for them too, Everybody's gates are bigger now. Everybody's doing better on social media. Every association, when I left Tika, I gave them an entire plan on social media PR and marketing when I was on the board of what we could do to really blow up Tika globally. They didn't want it. They didn't want it. They didn't want to spend any money on it. And I don't care who's listening because you didn't. You didn't want to spend any money. You didn't want to do it. And what happened? We left. I left. And then, now what are you doing? I see you all over the place with your social media, right? And you're doing an amazing job. CFA, New Vision Cat Club, doing an amazing job. These people have really stepped up. Why? Because I put my neck out, and it works. So I don't care what anybody says anymore. What we're doing is right. You're all following it. That's fantastic. And to each their own, no? Right? But we are on the right path, and this is the way forward. It's like, I always say, the golden age of the cat fancy. I hate to use that because it's being used in American politics right now, but the golden age of the cat fancy, right? We're reinvigorating, it's like New York, right? In the turn of the century, all this old money, United States money that's been there forever. And then you have the Rockefellers, the Carnegies, and all these people coming in with all this money, glitz and glamour, and the old establishment is sitting there not letting them in, right? No one's letting them in because they don't want them in. They're new, they're not accepted. We don't want them in society, right? So what did they do? They created their own society. And what happened is this new society became relevant. And the old society decided they wouldn't change. And what happened? They're 100% irrelevant. And this is what will happen if things don't change. Hope y'all get that, right? It's so true. It's so true. Um, Anything else? Want to have anything to add? I'm a lot, I know, guys. But I think what we're gonna do.
Stephen.
What? Tell me.
Sorry, I'm going to interrupt there. I wanted to touch on something you said about the idea of making money in the cat fancy. And I think that that's been a bone of contention with people and a big stick that people have been hitting you with for a while now. What I want to say is that I really struggle with that because I have a program and I make money off the cat fancy myself. I have in my new breeders club and things like that. And people get really upset about that. And there's Facebook groups talking about that, and I'm the devil because I'm taking people's money. And yet, if I took my cats and I overbred my cats and I sold my cats to any person that came along and didn't give a shit about what happened to them and had big litters and was just pumping out the cats like a factory, everyone would condemn me for that. So if you find another way to take the thing that you're passionate about and makes your heart sing, and you make money from that in another way, how is that wrong?
Follow you. That's exactly it. Like, I'm living my dream, right?
The thing that I love in my life, and I've dedicated 20 years of my life to doing it, I'm instead of exploiting the animals that are involved in that, I'm exploiting what's in my head and the knowledge that I have and the things that my body can do. But I'm still the devil for doing that.
Exactly. And like Dora, you're a lawyer, right? Your husband's a lawyer. Like, I mean, you have to do lawyerly things to keep active. But if you could do this as a full-time job, I know you would. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is our passion, you know, and that's. And this whole thing about me making money, like, I've sunk in like so much money to make this work, right? Like, I am in debt up to my eyeballs, and I'm gonna get that money back. And if I'm driving around in a Range Rover in 2027, I'm not gonna be sad about it, and I'm not gonna be upset about it because I've busted my ass to make this happen. And if all of you that are listening, if you go look up the salaries of the president of the American Kennel Club, even the COO of Tika, you know, go look up everybody's salaries for these nonprofits. Don't come after me. You know what I mean? Like, it's serious, you know? So I don't want to, this is such a weird kind of thing that you can't be perceived to make money. You gotta make money to make change. How are we supposed to make change if we don't have any money? Yeah? How are we supposed to grow? How are we supposed to give cats where we want them here, the same level as dogs, right? How are we supposed to do that? By what? Having a little show with 20 people in a leisure center in South London? Like, that's not gonna work, you know? Anyway, so that's another whole podcast, you know, on that subject. Go, Dora.
In Colombia, many years ago, always the club said that lots money. And the member of the club have to pay because lost money. When we arrived with Juan, my husband, we said, why lost money? Maybe in the first you don't make a lot money, but if you don't think like a business, you lost money. If you think like a business with the responsibility that is the life for the cats, with responsibility, but if you think as business, you never lost money. And in this way, we bought the cage, we bought the song, we bought, you know, we have a nice staff, we pay a big group to help us and make a nice show. When we don't lose the money, the breeder pay for a tax, for entry, a nice price, because it's no more than $30 dollars. People is happy, the brands are happy because have visibility, and the exhibitors coming and know about the cats in the same weekend.
Exactly.
That's amazing.
Kazumi.
Yeah, well, Dora's saying that, but what she's not saying is the work that behind what she's doing. You know, she's before the show. I was with her couple of before the Colombia show, and she moved left, right, center to all the vendors if they can give her some kind of sponsorships and stuff like that. All through the day, she was walking one by one, one by one. You look at Stephen, each shows, he goes on Friday night to set up. And it's amazing. He's not coming back until really late. I don't see him.
All day.
And all day setting up. And I don't see him after the show because he's, taking all things down. People don't know how much those people working.
We all work.
Yeah.
And what are we doing for free?
A month ago, because you are thinking that this show this weekend, but you 2 months ago, and you are working to obtain the money to make things. So this is a job.
Even just
No one
having all the
else,
stuff
no
in your
other,
house.
no other event company in the world. Like, we are totally, why we're also different is because the CAT associations, TICA, CFA, AC, they are run by individual clubs, that they do the shows. We took a different approach on that, where in order to grow fast, we couldn't wait around for people to do club shows, God bless Dora and Juan because they believed in me, and the vision, and I was able to convince them, because they believed in it. Because same with Kazumi, do you know what I mean? The same in Australia. I was able to convince these people of the vision, but it was never going to be that way in the United States, the United Kingdom. So we needed to operate shows like on the corporate level or the HQ level to build the brands, globally. If we just waited around for a show to pop up in the UK or a show to pop up in the United States, that would be a different story. If we stopped doing shows, like the business of Loving Cats Worldwide ceased operations, that's ideal, because we would like to just step back and be a marketing company and be social media, and we would like the clubs to all use the brand. Like, Loving Cats Net Worldwide will never go away. The brand is powerful. You know what I mean? And we always have registrations, we always have titles, we always have judges, we just did things a little bit different that basically bankrupt us, getting there, but we needed to do it. If we didn't do it, we wouldn't be anywhere, and that's the last thing before we cut for today anyway, like the pet expos. This also drives me absolutely crazy. So you have these massive pet expos, dogs, cats, horses, plants, whatever, in all these associations. They have them all over, not associations, all over the world, right? And they offer cat associations and dog associations, space to come in, sometimes free, sometimes not free, to become a feature for their show, which they then charge. So the Cat Association becomes a feature, but TICA and CFA and everybody else kisses the Pet Expo people's asses because what? You give them for free? But they're using you. They're using you to be a feature as part of their show. And don't get me wrong, my Pet Expo friends, because I like a lot of you, but it's but this is also madness. But they are never condemned for making money. Some of these Pet Expo companies do 1 a year or 2 a year, and that's all they do. That's all they do, and they make a fortune. Look at the one in Japan. Look at the ones in Bogota, right? This is a very well established, and they get how many people come through that show?
In Bogota is 40,000.
40,000, and in Tokyo more than that, probably,
More
right?
than that, yeah.
Wow.
So it's like, but no one ever, the cat associations condemn us for making money, but what about them? You know what I mean? They have every animal there. So it's actually such a crazy. I don't know if it's the same in the dog world. I suspect the politics are similar, but it's just this really crazy mentality that we will eventually change. And I hope that conversations like this continue to happen and we can be as real and transparent as possible of what we're trying to do. But at the end of the day, we just want the cats to be celebrated, you know what I mean? And we want to be able to do it without being obstructed at every corner, you know? It's like, you know, it's so crazy. New Australia, we're coming into Australia. We're not financially doing anything in Australia. It's run by an independent company of ladies that are putting their necks out to bring Australia to the masses. Sydney, Melbourne, Perth, Adelaide, Canberra, and Brisbane. Massive venues, huge output, huge amount of risk for these ladies. And people are demonizing them, you know? It's so crazy. You know?
And there are people that have been involved in the cat fancy here and have been supportive in terms of being vendors themselves. It just makes no sense to me at all.
Any other organization, industry, non-animal related, non-cat related, you're celebrating the entrepreneur. You're celebrating people, you know, that are coming up with innovative ideas, you know? We should be celebrated for coming up with these innovative ideas, but instead we're demonized, and this is crazy to the outside world. You know. Anyway, all right, that's our hour. I would let's try to do these on a every other week. I'm sure this is going to go over extremely well. And you guys have anything else to add for now? I know it's getting late in Australia and Japan, so you go. Big round of applause, you know, for you guys. Thank you very much, Pamela from Australia, Dora from Colombia, Kazumi from Japan. Anybody else out there that wants to join us? We'd love someone from the UK and someone from the United States to join us on the next run. Thank you very much. We'll see you soon. Remember, everybody can have one more cat. No one will ever notice. And we'll see you guys later.